Hello, fellow beach maniacs and island music lovers. Welcome to the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast, where we dive into the stories behind the music. I'm your host, the Beach Maniac himself, Bill Hurley. In this episode, we're talking with James "Sonny Jim" White, a trop rock pioneer who, over the years, has won just about every trop rock award there is, including Trop Rock Music Association awards for Male Vocalist of the Year, Musician of the Year, Songwriter of the Year, Performer of the Year, the ICANN Award for Community Service, and most recently, Entertainer of the Year. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sonny Jim, for being a guest on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. I know that after decades of being one of the most awarded trop rock musicians, you're still an incredibly busy performer and traveler, and it's really a reflection of your kind nature to take the time to be here today. So thank you for that.
I'm really pleased to be here with you. This is fun.
All right. You've been making music for decades, and you have a very rich history as one of the pioneers of trop rock music with scores of awards to show for it. When I listen to your music, it's unmistakably trop rock, but I also hear some folk, country, blues, even Texas swing mixed in. How would you describe your music?
Well, I think probably for everyone, the music you make is a reflection of who you are. And I was born in Texas, born in San Antonio, Texas, and we lived there till I was 10. We spent 2 years in Corpus Christi, Texas. My dad worked for Gulf Oil, and then we were shipped out to Bakersfield, California, where I was exposed, and that I would have been about 12 years old. Well, I was 12 when we moved out there, and I was exposed to the whole West Coast music scene of course, the Eagles, Jackson Browne, Joni Mitchell, all the West Coast sound that was happening in the late 60s and 70s, all through the 70s, the Jefferson Airplane, and I think all of those things are reflective of me. My first live music experience was of being at a place in San Antonio with my parents. They were square dancing, and it was a Texas swing band. So you're right on the money there. It comes through.
Absolutely. So your career also goes back to the early Jimmy Buffett days, and I believe your paths crossed. How did you meet Jimmy, and how well did you know him?
Well, I would say that I knew him well enough that he would call me by name when I would see him backstage, but we never really hung out. Actually, we did a little bit in Grand Cayman. So the story for me starts, I heard my first Buffett album probably about, 1977 or so, 79 in there, and I had been a fan. I ended up moving to Grand Cayman Islands, with a band out of Nashville in 1988. And this band did impersonations. It was a 9-piece show band called the Marvels, and they were around for about over 20 years. And listeners from the mid part of the country and the eastern part would maybe have seen this band. But we were the house band at a place called Treasure Island Resort, and the owners of that place were record store owners. And so if we asked for any music, we got whatever music we wanted for free, and I was going to do a Jimmy Buffett tribute. And so I got, back then it was cassette tapes, I got every cassette tape Jimmy had done up until probably 1989. And we actually never did do that because the band left the island and I decided to stay. I was home. And on Jimmy's 50th birthday, we met him at the airport. I was working at the Hyatt by that point. And he was staying at the Hyatt, and they told me that, hey, guess who's coming in tomorrow? Jimmy Buffett. And I'm like, oh my God. So I thought I would let him have his space and not bug him on his birthday. I knew it was his birthday, Christmas Day. But my wife and my twin daughters and I have a history of walking the beach on the evening of Christmas Day, watching the sunset. And when we were getting back in our car, we heard he was landing at the airport. So we were on our way past the airport to go look at Christmas lights one last time with our daughters, and we just stopped in at the private airport there in Grand Cayman, and we waited around for probably a half hour, heard that beautiful Grumman albatross land, and Jimmy and Cameron and four other guys came out. The rent-a-car people, God bless them, they were island style. They were late getting there to drop off the rent-a-car to them, and Cameron was hungry, so we ended up giving them a ride, Cameron and Jimmy, back to the Hyatt, and got him all checked in. And he said, well, now the other guys are going to be fighting over who has to babysit while we go have dinner for my birthday. And my wife, Adela, said, well, we'll babysit Cameron. So we did. And that turned into, we got to go see him many times and backstage many times. And he sent Radio Margaritaville down to Grand Cayman. We did a live broadcast of my show. It was the first Radio Margaritaville broadcast from outside the country, and I was the first non-coral reefer to perform live on Radio Margaritaville.
Oh, wow.
And it turned out to be a really nice thing. He was great. So there you go.
So you made reference to your show. What was your show?
Well, even then, after being at the Hyatt at that point for about 9 years, I was doing mainly original music. Of course, when you're playing for, by that time I had picked up the steel drums, so I was doing Caribbean style, my own songs. And working for tourists, you have to play kind of a wide variety of stuff. But at that point, I probably had 5 CDs of my own music. So we did it, I think it was a 2-hour show from 7 Mile Beach. I have it recorded somewhere, but I did a live show of only my own music on Radio Margaritaville, and it was so exciting. It was just great. So that's what I mean by my show, doing my own show. And the Hyatt was behind me all the way. Department of Tourism from Grand Cayman was excited about it and helped us set up what was then called a T1 line. That was a high-speed internet in those days. I believe it was 1998. And all of a sudden, I'm in touch with the whole Parrot Head world. It was great. It was really cool.
All right. So to backtrack a little bit, you gave Jimmy Buffett a ride from the airport to the hotel. And at the time, you didn't even know him.
Well,
or he didn't know you, I should
didn't know
say.
him personally, put it that way.
Yeah.
But,
right.
the whole time I'm driving, of course, you're driving on the left there in the Cayman Islands, and Cameron's sitting on his lap, and I'm thinking, please, God, don't let me be the guy that gets Jimmy Buffett killed on Christmas Day on his birthday in some tragic, horrible Christmas mishap auto accident. But it was great. He was really fun. He was nice. So
I just can't imagine that.
We dropped him off at the Hyatt, and we went home to get some videos because all of our kids were small then. I'll send you a photograph of us with Jimmy and Cameron.
That'd be perfect.
My girls. But I got some games for them to play in a ball. I rolled the ball with Cameron for probably 45 minutes, and it was just great. When we got back to the Hyatt, he was changing Cameron's diaper, and Adela goes, "I like a dad who's a hands-on. He'll change the kid's diaper." So, yeah, it was just
right.
He's just a regular guy. It was great.
Yeah.
Really good.
And many times after that, you say you had a chance to meet him in various places.
Yes, in fact, the place where really everything happened was Atlanta. They were playing there, and we had gone up to Atlanta to do some shopping, and also to go to the concert. He said, "Hey, you need to go backstage and talk to Steve Huntington. We have this new thing called Radio Margaritaville," and Mike Ramos took me back to the tour bus where Steve Huntington was sitting with the little recording desk, and they were broadcasting live on the internet doing Radio Margaritaville. It was just a blast. Also, that same time, the Today Show was there doing a piece on the kickoff of summer with Jimmy Buffett, and that became a thing for many years. He would play the beginning of summer, and so somewhere there's pictures of me on the tour bus with Jimmy and Steve Huntington, who is now a very close and very dear friend. He lives very close to me, uh, in Bradenton, Florida.
And he's now at Radio Trop Rock.
Yes, that is correct. And anyhow, somewhere there's footage of that, and I would give anything to see that. Love to see it.
So, to what extent did Jimmy Buffett influence not just your music, but your life?
Well, I think because I spent 2 years as a kid in Corpus Christi, Texas, and was on the beach all the time and, body surfing and everything that has to do with the beach as a kid, I really enjoyed it. And then when I got to Grand Cayman as an adult, I felt like I had come home and I was a kid again. And I just loved it. I loved the island life. Jimmy, of course, is at that time was pretty much the soundtrack to island life. And his music, his songwriting really influenced me a lot. He's one of my favorite songwriters, especially his early stuff, I would say. That's when you're forming your impressions. But it's kind of interesting that for me, my favorite writers, Jimmy, Jerry Jeff Walker, Guy Clark, they all kind of came from that Texas cosmic cowboy scene. And of course, Jimmy and Jerry Jeff met up in Coconut Grove and he drove Jimmy down to Key West for the first time. And, so all those guys that were connected together connected to me. And I drew a lot of influence from them.
Wonderful. I want to also ask a little bit about your relationship with another late, great trop rock artist, and that's Jim Morris, who we tragically lost in 2016.
Yeah,
I know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he lived in your area down there in Southwest Florida, and I know you knew him well and played with him, and since his passing, you do tribute performances for him. So
exactly.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Jim Morris and what Jim Morris meant to you?
I met Jim at the first meeting of minds in the Key West in 1998, and Alex Leist, who was then running the Parrot Heads in Paradise, we were supposed to each do an hour and a half separately, and Alex said, you'd be good on stage together. You guys go. And so we did 3 hours, and we had just met that day, and we traded songs off, and he just killed me with his songwriting because he was something that everybody hopes to be as a songwriter, and that's unique. He had just a unique voice, and I don't mean singing voice, but his just outlook and the way he approached storytelling and songs like nobody else that I know. He was hysterical. And so I was still living in Cayman at that time, and he invited me to come up and perform for a music event he had called Magic on the Water in Punta Gorda, Florida, which is where he had lived. So I did that, and again, we just hit it off great, and we ended up doing a Gulf Coast highway tour. We ended up going up and down the East Coast. I was with him the first time I ever went to Seattle, Washington, even though I had lived in Northern California, fairly close. So he and I covered a lot of ground together and did a lot of shows together, and I never stopped admiring his talent.
How would you describe his influence on trop rock music?
Well, sadly, I think while he was alive, he had a huge and still has a huge and dedicated following, but I don't think he wasn't a great guitar player. He surrounded himself with really good musicians, but he was fun, he was authentic, he was original, and I think since then people have started to discover that, and they're really paying attention to it now. I know there's a lot of people. Jonas Lawrence comes to mind that does his stuff. There's other people too that are doing Jim songs, and they're just fun songs. And again, they're not like anybody else's stuff. So,
and even if they're not doing his songs, he undoubtedly had a big influence on a lot of today's trop rock artists.
Well, I would think so. Generally, it was the kind of story of I'm going to leave my job and move to the beach, and I don't care, and I'm going to have a margarita or a rum drink while I'm there. And he was really good at describing the characters that he encountered in his life in Punta Gorda. I don't know if you know, but Jim had walked away from a six-figure income as a personnel director for a major chemical company, and he just did it on the chance that maybe he could have some success as a songwriter. And his company really was grooming him to be, upper echelon. And they said, "Okay, Jim, you just think about it. Take a year off. We'll pay you. Take a year off, and you'll want to come back." And he took a year off, moved to Key West, and he never looked back. Never.
So I understand that he played a role in your remake of the classic Roger Miller tune, King of the Road, your version being King of the Beach, on your latest album, Changing Tides. Can you tell us that story?
Sure. Jim's wife, Sharon, who is also deceased, she had approached Jim at some point and said, "Look, I think you should do King of the Beach, but just do it like Roger Miller's King of the Road." And I don't know how far they got on it, but she mentioned it to me after Jim passed, and I thought about it, and I don't think I finished it before she passed. And I think about both of them, and I think it's dedicated to the both of them on the record. If not, I sure think about them every time I sing that song.
And did he have any role in the lyrics, or did you come up with the lyrics yourself?
That was all my stuff, except it was Sharon's idea, her recommendation to do a song called King of the Beach. And I think she also pitched that idea to Brent Burns, and Brent kind of took it a different direction and wrote kind of a memorial and tribute song to Jim. If you haven't checked that one out, you ought to check that one out. But I went with Sharon's original idea, just blatantly rip off King of the Road.
It's such a fun song, and the lyrics are so much fun listening to that old-time song with the new lyrics and the beach focus.
At the end of that song, there's the whole rant about Kelly McGuire and he's not the king of the beach, he's the king of the island. And then I say, did I ever tell you about the time Kelly McGuire bought a snapper, whole fried snapper for 6 of us, and it was like $230, and he didn't buy it, he had left his wallet at home. But that whole thing just tumbled out as I was recording the vocal at the end of it. I just and it made me laugh so much, because to this day, Mark Mulligan, Sam Densler, and we all kid Kelly McGuire about that. We just haven't let him forget it.
Painted coconuts all around, conch shells piled in a great big mound. Fried whole snapper makes good eats, and I'm king of the beach. Today I'm the king of the beach. I feel like king of the beach. Not king of the island, that's Kelly McGuire. Did I ever tell you about the time Kelly McGuire ordered a fried old snapper for 8 of us? Well, that's a story. Okay, I'll tell you where it is. It's down at...
So I want to ask you about something that I experienced recently, and that is truly an indicator of your dedication to the craft and to your fellow Trop Rock musicians. And that's the Songwriter series that you host near your home at the historic Venice, Florida train depot, where some of the top Trop Rock artists and rising stars perform in that very intimate setting, similar to a house concert setting. Tell us about the Train Depot series and why you do it.
Well, when I lived in Grand Cayman, I was there on a work permit, and I could not work anywhere else except the Hyatt Regency, and that was that way for 11 years. I could go out and sit in with someone, but I couldn't really go work for money with anyone else. And so as soon as I got back to the States, in fact, that very first actually, it wasn't the first, it was the second Meeting of the Minds in Key West. I started hosting people that I had met in my travels around the country, come sing 3 songs with me up on the water tower at Blue Heaven in Key West. And then that kind of translated itself into, if someone was passing through town, I would, say, well, look, I can get you a place to stay, and we'll do a show at this little, started out a different place, a community center in a little village called Nokomis. And then I found the Venice train depot, the cargo room, the freight room there, and it's just a beautiful setting. It seats about 50 people comfortably, and we started doing shows in there, and it's been 20 years I've been doing shows in this thing, and I do have a double CD of probably highlights from the first 12, 15 years of it, and I try and record most of the shows to later, pick out a song or two from each performer and hopefully release them on a CD or download or whatever. But the place is just magical, and we rent it during the season here when most of my friends are passing through. It gets to be too hot in that room in the summertime. So we just had our last show about 2 weeks ago, and it was my friend John Patty and I closing out the season with, it was the Cinco de Mayo party that happened on the 8th. So it was the Cinco de Mayo on island time. And it was just a blast. Those shows are always fun. And I get people in there that I know, and that I know their music, and that I love their music. And we just swap songs and tell stories. It's like Austin City Limits on a very intimate scale.
Exactly. Yeah. And you just call them up and say, can you come on down and perform? And
well, at this point, typically we used to only do one show a month there, but I have so many friends that we have pretty much doubled that at least. And then sometimes if someone's coming through and says, hey, can you squeeze me in on a Wednesday or Thursday? We typically do midweek because we have such a retired community here that people can make it on their schedules, and it helps the performers who everybody wants you to work on the weekend. So if I can give them a Wednesday or a Thursday, it works out great for all of us. And we don't even really advertise the shows because we have sort of an established group that comes through, and we have an email list on that. If you want to get on the email list, stop by sunnygym.com.
I think I already am.
Okay, good. You've
and
been to
I think
shows.
I have, yeah. I was there last month, 2 months ago, I guess.
Who was there?
It was Manalo and Christopher Dale.
Yeah. Oh God, that was fun.
That was a great
They're all
night.
like that. They're all of them are fun, and always great performers.
And for people who are interested, they can find out more information about the Train Depot series on your website at sunnygym.com.
Correct.
So go back to your history, your biography a little bit. You mentioned some of it in the Cayman Islands. You're originally from California, or
No,
you're
originally from
Texas.
San
And then you
Antonio.
moved to your family moved to California?
Yep.
Your father was a musician?
Yeah, a little bit. He played guitar and a little bit of piano. So when I was a kid, we had a piano in the house, and my mother traded babysitting for piano lessons. I had about maybe 2 months of piano lessons. Then it kind of sat there. And I picked up the guitar, I think, when I was about 12. And I don't think my dad ever saw it again until the late 90s, when my mom had Alzheimer's, and they had moved from California back to Houston to be closer to their families in that time. And I bought my dad a guitar so he could do that at home with her. And so he was a musical influence, meaning that he played old cowboy songs and songs from the 40s and the 50s, campfire songs mostly, that kind of thing.
And how did you end up in Nashville?
I had a band after I got out of college in Northern California, and actually we had a lead guitar player with us named Bill Cooley for about 6 months. And Bill ended up going to Nashville, immediately got landed working with Reba McEntire, and had I think he was with her for 14 years, and then was with Kathy Mattea until he retired about 3 years ago. And so things went so well for him that my drummer friend Andy Arrow, who incidentally gave me the nickname of Sonny Jim, he wanted to go there and chase his fame and fortune, and I was really interested in seeing what the songwriting world was all about. So that's what made me decide to move there, was chasing songwriting. And that went well for about a year, and then I got my heart broken by a girl, and I joined the first band going out of town, and that's when my life began. Really did. I ended up with that band that eventually, after being on the road with them for a year and a half, we ended up in Grand Cayman for that 1 year, and that 1 year turned into 11 years, 12 years total. And I've been married 35 years now. I have twin girls who are going to be 33 at the end of this month. And yeah, it's been a great ride. It's been really good. Really fun.
So they basically grew up in the Cayman Islands?
Well, they were 8 when we left, and it's kind of funny that even though when we do go back with them, they go, "Oh yeah, I remember this," meaning places or a feel or something, but they're not driven to live in the Caribbean, and they're not really beach people. They're really,
what?
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? What did I do wrong? What did I go wrong? They are both visual artists, graphic artists, and they are doing their own things and traveling. They're headed to Charleston, I think, this coming weekend. They sell their art at anime conventions, Comic-Con conventions, furry conventions. So they have.
So they work together as
no,
twins.
Not really. They're separate, but they do sometimes travel and do shows together. And yeah, they have a blast doing what they do too. It's good.
So how did living in the Cayman Islands influence your music?
Well, I will tell you that once I moved down there, my ear was glued to Radio Cayman, which was the government radio, and all I heard was Caribbean music. You know, I completely lost the 90s in popular music in the U.S. I missed the whole grunge thing, and
oh, that's all right.
Yeah, a lot of pop music. I think I came out ahead, actually. But I was listening to Mighty Sparrow and Arrow and of course, Bob Marley and anything Caribbean, anything with a soca beat, and learning to play the steel drum. So I just completely absorbed that, and it was great. And all the other things that come with living in the Caribbean. The first year I got certified to scuba dive. I met people with sailboats, and I learned about sailing, and I rebuilt a little sailboat myself, a little 18-footer, and sailed that for almost 8 years, I guess. And, you know, I soaked up that whole lifestyle, and I do miss it. Every day I do miss it. But we have it pretty good here in Florida.
Right. And that lifestyle that you soaked up is reflected in your music.
It definitely is. There was a fellow that I met the first day I was there living on Grand Cayman named Phil Jones, a British fella who owned and ran the water sports at the Treasure Island Resort where I worked. And he and I became lifelong best friends. And sadly, he passed away about almost 4 years ago now. But he took me sailing with him all throughout the Caribbean. And he lived in the southern part of the Caribbean, and I would go visit down there, and you know, it was just life-changing. It was just great.
And again, the lyrics of your songs come from that rich experience.
Right, and I probably have written more songs inspired by hanging out with him and the people around him. Mind Your Head Fred, a real guy. Moon Over Mustique, Splendid Adventurer, which was the name of his big catamaran sailboat. Just so many things to write about. You know, it's like being born or reborn, and all of a sudden you have this whole nother world to absorb and to be inspired by.
When I first met Captain Phil, he was writing his name on the sky, pulling parasails high above the crystal waters of an island paradise. He said, I'll teach you to sail my sailboat if you'll bring your guitar and sing me songs. He was living a dream of a life on the sea, pulling other people along. He had won and lost 2 fortunes by then, so when the hurricane cleaned him out, he just laughed as he threw up his hands and told me this is what it's all about. He said a happy heart makes a happy boat, 'cause living is a gift you see. The rest is a splendid adventure. Why don't you come along with me? And I say sail on, splendid adventure. May the gentle trade winds find you full of beam. I say sail on, splendid adventure. Captain Phil, my friend, keep living the dream.
And you and your wife Adela love to travel so much that you regularly sponsor group excursions to
We do.
somewhat exotic locations around the world.
Somewhat exotic.
Some are exotic and maybe some aren't, right?
Our first trip like that, we went to Ocho Rios, Jamaica, and it was fabulous. And I think we had 80 people with us, and we've done Grand Cayman a number of times. In fact, we were just in Grand Cayman and Little Cayman about 3 weeks ago. We've done a couple of cruise ship cruises. We've explored some in Europe. We did a Danube River cruise, and then last end of the summer, we went through Italy and Greece, and we're headed back. I mean, we love it, and we've found that there's a group of people that are really good travelers, meaning they're not too demanding, and they like the experience, and then I can provide music and entertainment when it's the right time for that. So we have the Sunny Jim Travel Club now.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but my wife Diane and I are signed up for your trip to Tahiti next summer.
I believe Adela told me that. So
that is a real dream vacation, dream trip for us.
And for us too. And Jim Morris had done that, and we had planned on going back together, which would have been terrific. We know how that turned out. But I'm really excited about going back there, and Adela is so excited about it too that it's going to be great. It's going to be good.
So what is it about traveling that intrigues and inspires you? And again, how has that influenced your music?
Well, I always say this. There are tourists and there are travelers. And a tourist will want to go and look at a few sites and then eat at a restaurant that the style may be familiar to them, or stay in a hotel that is going to be just a certain way that they're used to. But a traveler goes and kind of embraces the road and embraces the differences between what we have here and what we do here, and they just soak up the different country, the different customs, and that's what I like about it. Is it just gives me a new outlook on life. I think if everybody traveled or could travel more, the world would be a better place.
Okay, I want to talk about a few specific songs that you've written and perform regularly. I think you've said you've written more than 100 songs. Is that true?
Yeah, probably, recorded at least 120, and there's more that have been recorded that haven't been released yet. So yeah, a lot of songs.
And each one of those, each one of those songs has a story behind it. But we only have time to talk about a few of them. And I want to start by asking about the song Friendships, where you sing, "The best ships are friendships." What does that song mean to you personally?
First of all, Dan Sullivan approached me. Dan Sullivan, who used to be with the Detentions from Austin, Texas, he called me and he said, "Sonny Jim, I'm working on this song and I'm kind of stuck. And I think maybe you're the guy to help me." And it's based on I believe it's an Irish toast. And, but he approached me about that at the time that my friend Captain Phil, I don't know if he had just passed, probably had just passed, but my best friend through thick and thin, he owns a house down the street from me, or his wife does now. And so the whole concept of friendship, to me, that just, it's, you know, one of the finest things in life is having someone you can call a real friend. So that's what that, thank you, Dan Sullivan, for getting me that idea, or letting me come in and help with that idea. Friendships, that's what it's all about. They're like, and it's obviously the play on the word ship. Tall ships and small ships, ships of every shape and size. The best ships are friendships that stand the test of time. That's what it means to me.
Beautiful.
There are tall ships, there are small ships of every shape and size. But the best ships are friendships that stand the test of time.
And you've written a few songs about your life in Southwest Florida. Like I believe home is where the palm trees grow.
Yes.
Is that about Southwest Florida?
Yeah. So when COVID hit, and of course we couldn't work anywhere because we couldn't perform in front of a crowd, I started doing a live stream from my backyard, and the first couple of them were horrible. But I figured out I needed to upgrade the technical end of it, so we ended up coming in here. There used to be a sign right over my shoulder there that said Cantina Jaime del Sol, and we ended up doing shows from in here every week, every Wednesday night, and it was terrific, but we needed a theme song. You know, you've got got to have a theme song. So I wrote that song thinking about how lucky I was to be here in Southwest Florida during that awful time, and just walked around the neighborhood, shot video of palm trees, and we overlaid that with that song I had written, and I really like it. It's a happy little song.
It is, and it's a celebration of the things that you love the most.
As a
the beach and the palm
tree. You can appreciate that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Far away from any cold and snow, where I could sit and watch life move slow. Home is where the palm trees grow. It's the place where I can go, watch the world go by. Count my blessings every day, where the palm trees kiss the sky. Welcome to my special place. Slow down, pull yourself a chair. World away from the old rat race. Friends, you're welcome here. Home is where the palm trees grow, far away from any ice and snow. The drinks are cold and the pace is slow, down where the palm trees grow. Yeah, home is where the palm trees grow. Sit back and enjoy the show.
And then there's It's Still Summer Somewhere.
Yeah.
Similar along those lines. How did that song come about?
Let me think about that. I think that phrase, "It's still summer somewhere," either somebody said it or it popped into my head one day, and I sat down with the intent of fleshing that one out. So, and as I recall, that one came out really quickly. Sometimes the songs don't,
Right.
you have to wrestle with them for a while, a week or two or a month or whatever. And that one came out pretty quickly. It was good. Yeah.
We
All right.
can make it out somehow. I've got vacation days that are going to waste, and our suitcase is open on the bed. So grab your flip-flops, your snorkel and mask, I've got a plan in my head. It's still summer somewhere, and there's a beach calling out to me. It's still summer somewhere, and that's the place where we need to be. Jump on the computer and book us a flight. We can catch a red eye in the middle of the night. When we wake up in the morning, the world will be right when we're there, where it's still summer somewhere.
All right. And Southwest Florida Pearl?
Yes. Now that's
You know, when I first heard that song, I thought it was Southwest Florida Girl, but it's Pearl. Why is it Pearl?
because the woman that I was inspired to write that about, she was wonderful. Her husband is a grumpy old guy, and she always kept him in line. And she would come and sit in the front row and sing every word to every song. And yeah, so that was from my friend Marianne, and sadly she passed away. It's been a while ago. But yeah, Southwest Florida Pearl, man.
So she was a friend or a fan, or
she was a fan and a friend. Most of my fans are my friends. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And she was definitely one of those. Definitely one of those.
But her name wasn't actually Pearl.
No, it wasn't. It was Marianne Leonard.
And where'd you come up with the Pearl?
Because I didn't want to say girl, probably. I don't know. Because she was just a pearl. She was a pearl, you know, stood out from the crowd.
Ah, okay.
She's shaking her long blonde curl. She ain't gonna miss a minute of it. She's a Southwest Florida Pearl. Got a long white Cadillac, take her out to see the band. Says that's why I moved down here, that my special man. We got hitched up out in Vegas, a little old chapel of love. Moved here from the frozen north, and it fits me like a glove. But I can go sit on the beach now, Sarasota on the way down south. Our good friends and the music here, that's really what it's all about. Southwest Florida Pearl, margarita in her hand, jumping up out her chair, dancing with the band, smiling, singing every word, shaking her long blonde curl. She ain't gonna miss a minute of it. She's Southwest Florida Pearl.
And Blame It on the Rum from 2012 when I looked on Spotify at your playlist, I believe it listed that as your most streamed song on Spotify.
I would not at all be surprised. That is actually from 1993. This fellow showed up at my pool bar one fall afternoon and was there for about 4 days, and he was smoking cigars and drinking martinis and looking through a big 3-ring binder. Turns out that that was the director, Sidney Pollack, and he was about to come down and shoot the movie The Firm, and so he was doing scouting locations to shoot, and I see him nodding and smoking a cigar and nodding, and I visited with him some, and he was a really nice guy. And about 6 weeks before they came down to film, I got a call from somebody in LA and saying, hi, I'm the music director, and Sidney Pollack wants to know if you'd be interested in singing a song in the film. I'm like, what? Of course. And so they had me prepare an instrumental and another song, and they really liked Blame It on the Rum. So I wrote that song for that movie, and I think I put that on my 1994 CD, The Sandbar Serenade. And yeah, so that one's been around a while. In fact, just yesterday at my gig on Siesta Key that I've been doing for 20 years at a place called Captain Kurt's, someone asked for that song, and they took a picture of me And then they did a side-by-side of a screenshot from me in that film to me now, and I look exactly the same. I haven't aged a
I'm
bit.
sure.
But yeah, that song has been really fun because it's a fun story to be able to tell. It was great. And I'll tell you, the very best thing about it was my parents happened to be there as they were filming. They were just down visiting because we had new daughters, new twins. They came out from California. And I heard my dad from behind the shrubs where I was playing at the Hyatt Pool Bar. That's where that scene is shot, where Gene Triple Horn drugs Gene Hackman's screen. All the years of my dad saying, well, this is fun, but you're going to have kids and you need to get a real job and get serious. I heard him say, that's my son. He's going to be in the movie.
There you go.
It changed everything. It was great. It was really good.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Blame it on the rum. We could say it was the tropical night, was the gentle kiss of the waves on the shore in those tiki lights. It was the moon through the coconut trees and the magic between you and me. When tomorrow finally it's all said and done, we could blame it on the rum. Yeah, we could blame it on the rum. We could say it was the tropical nights, was the gentle kiss of an ocean breeze in the pale moonlight. It was the music through the coconut trees and the magic between you and me. When tomorrow finally comes, when it's all said and done, we could blame it on the rum. Yeah, when tomorrow finally comes, when it's all said and done, we could blame it on the rum.
So of all your over 100 songs that you've written, is there one that stands out for you as your favorite?
That changes about every week or so. Yeah, some of them, like Off the Changing Tides, one that I wrote with Coley McCabe Shepherd, Last Call at the Big Bamboo Lounge, about a place over in Kissimmee that has been closed for almost 10 years now, but it was a real dive bar, and it was magic over there. It was a really cool place. Gosh, so many songs. Probably two stand out, and one would be the Sail On Splendid Adventurer that I wrote for my friend Phil, and then the one that I've probably played for hundreds of weddings, the one that I wrote for my wife called Isla Adela. And those two, but every once in a while I have to pinch myself and say, I wrote that song? Where did that come from? It's really fun.
Tell us about Isla Adela.
Well, we just celebrated January 27th. We celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary. And after I asked her to marry me, and there's another song about that called Under This Palm Tree. I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. And I got to thinking about it, what marriage means and the commitment. And I ended up writing this song, You Are My Island in the Sea of Time. No longer must this sailor roam. You are my island, my love and my life, my comfort, my joy, my home for her. And so when we actually had our wedding reception, we got married in Grand Cayman at the Catholic Church there, and had a wedding reception at a place called the Crow's Nest. And we had dated there a lot. So when I went to play that song, we knew everybody, the waitresses, the chefs, the owners, and the whole restaurant shut down for about 3 minutes and 27 seconds as I sang that song. Not a dry eye in the house. And that song, for me, to this day, is like saying my wedding vows all over again. And it's that one means a lot to me, the most to me. So that's how that one came about.
That's beautiful. What wife wouldn't want to have a husband who could write and perform a song like that for them?
Yeah, I always kid my friends about that. Has he written one for you like that?
So let the hurricanes blow, let the tides come and go, let life bring whatever it may. In the eye of the storm, there is shelter in your arms, and together we'll make bright sunny days. You are my island in this sea of time. No longer must this sailor roam. You are my island, my love and my life, my comfort, my joy and my home. You are my island in this sea of time. No longer must this sailor roam.
I have a couple of quick questions about your life as a musician. I know you play acoustically a lot. You just mentioned like Captain Kirk's. Do you have a band or a group of artists that you play with regularly also?
Well, the main group, there's two of them really, and that would be the Three Amigos. I just got back from Isla Mujeres, Mexico, off of Cancun, doing a show down there that I've been doing 15 years now with Mark Mulligan, Mexico Mark Mulligan, and Kelly McGuire. And Mark started this thing 16 years ago, and I got invited to come join them on the second one he did. Sam Densler of Songwriters Island Radio has taken it over for Mark because he just got too busy with family. He's got 4 kids. And so those two guys I work with a lot. And the next would probably be, most importantly, probably John Patty and I, because we've been friends since he was 15 years old. And I first met him in '98 at that meeting of the minds. And then he worked with Jim Morris for about 8 or 9 years. And then when Jim passed, I kind of picked up the slack with him and for him. And then COVID came along, and we ended up doing the live streams here from the Cantina Jaime del Sol. And so I've worked with John a whole lot, and we have a great interaction with the two of us. And but also with Jimmy Pappas, who was also in Jim Morris's band for a long time. In fact, we're doing a Jim Morris tribute cruise coming up in June. I believe it's the 13th through the 17th. And that's out of Tampa to Cozumel and back. And those guys the most, but there's another couple that just moved here literally a third of a mile from my house from Colorado, and they're both originally from New Jersey. They have a band still called Lefty Lucy, and it's a husband and wife, Nick and Lucy de Blasio, and I met them on their honeymoon in Grand Cayman 25 years ago. Nick is a huge Buffett fan and had read about me in Buffett's Pirate Looks at 50 book. There's a little, he tells the story of when he met us at the airport. So Nick and Lucy came, and I loaned them gear to do a fill-in gig that night, and we've been friends ever since. And so I'm starting to work with them more, especially now that they're in the area. And we're doing a Buffett tribute. We're doing some shows here locally, and we'll be working together more. I did have a band for about 5 years in the early 2000s, like 2005 till 2010. But it was really hard to keep a band going full-time doing mainly original music. So, yeah, those guys are all scattered all over, and I miss that. I love playing with a band, though. It's so much fun to collaborate.
And if you need a drummer, you just get on the phone and pull one in?
Yes. There's a fellow down in Inglewood, about 45 minutes south of here, Jax Bowers, Alan Jax Bowers, who has a recording studio down there. He's a terrific drummer, and if I need someone, I can do that. John Patty plays the drums. So for my solo show, I typically use backup tracks that I do all my tracks here in what used to be my studio and is now now the merchandise queen studio.
In transition.
But when I was in Grand Cayman, because I couldn't play with other people and the technology became available using MIDI and synthesizers, that I could do backup tracks, and that would allow me to step away from the guitar and the microphone and play the steel drum. And it worked, and I really love creating that way. And I'm excited about having my studio and redone once we get this other building going here, to get back in the studio. So,
Do you have your own label? How and where are your albums produced and recorded?
well, I record after the first two, which I did at recording studios in Grand Cayman. I started recording and producing them myself, and for me, it was I had a small studio in Northern California with my drummer friend Andy Arrow, and so I had a basic knowledge of it, and then I just self promote them when I'm done, and basically selling CDs out of the trunk of my car. Hey buddy, want to buy a CD? Like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Or on your website, sunnyjim.com.
They are definitely, and we've been doing the website since '92 or something. So yes, sunnyjim.com is where everything is for me.
Right. You have any new ventures, events, or songs coming up?
Well, I mentioned the Jim Morris Cruise, and I do have 2 songs written and a whole bunch that are under construction, but I've kind of been traveling a lot lately. And in July, we're headed for Hawaii and doing a Hawaiian Island cruise. I'm taking Jerry Diaz with us. That should be a lot of fun. Jerry's one of my oldest friends, and a great songwriter and a whole lot of fun to hang out with. And let's see. Then in the fall, this is really exciting for me. We're doing a UK tour. We're calling it the Rock and Roll Research Tour. And we're taking a group first to Dublin, Ireland, but then mainly to London and on to Liverpool. And in Liverpool, I get to play on stage at the Cavern Club, where the Beatles did their debut. And then we go up to Scotland for a few days and then home. So there's some travel coming up in my future. Yeah.
So, in summary, you're a guy who lived in the Cayman Islands for 12 years. Now you live in beautiful Southwest Florida. You travel the Caribbean and the world. You perform for loving fans several times a week. You have close friends everywhere, great wife and family. I know a lot of people think maybe you live the ideal life. How would you describe your life?
I would say I've been very fortunate, and both my wife and I agree that we followed our hearts more than our heads, because we don't have any money to speak of, but we have had great experiences. We have great friends, and life's been very good. We're very excited about and very thankful for all the good things that have come our way. It's really true.
Well, thanks so much, Sonny Jim, for being a guest on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. I think this has been a lot of fun. It's been a real honor for me, insightful and entertaining. And I look forward to hearing more of your music and for that trip to Tahiti next summer.
Yeah, man, that's going to be great. All right, I'll see you on board, if not before.
All right, thanks, James.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Sonny Jim, for joining me on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. For more information about Sonny Jim, visit beachmaniac.com, where this podcast is housed, and where you will find both an audio and video podcast, along with some video clips, a blog from a podcast transcript, embedded videos of some of Sonny Jim's most popular songs, and links to Sonny Jim's website, Facebook page, and Instagram account. And thanks to everyone for joining me, Bill Hurley, the Beach Maniac, as we go behind the scenes and explore the magic behind the music. For more about me and my passion, visit beachmaniac.com or contact me at bill@beachmaniac.com. Remember, whether you're soaking up the sun or catching the waves, we hope you're feeling those good beach vibes. Until next time, keep the sand between your toes and the ocean breeze in your hair. Stay safe, stay cool, and we'll catch you on the next wave.
So don't call me back home to that cold frosty dome. Just send money and throw me